Look at here what we got here, man. We got a rebranding. Things are great around here. It's been a great podcast for everybody, but sometimes things get a little stale and you have to refresh and rebrand a little bit. Me and Jonathan decided to merge and recreate our unholy alliance that was once upon a time. Say that two sheriffs can't be in the same town, but by God, we're going to do it. We're going to run this thing. And so we're saddled up, we're ready to go. And we're going to have a few nice little college football topics today to keep y'all's taste buds wet until we can get to football season, because I'm about to go crazy, man. I'm ready for some football. Tell us what we got today.
All right. Today we're going to be going over the top 5. Well, we'll just say top 10 SEC head coaches. I listed off top 6. You got 7. We might as well talk about 10. But either way, guys, yes, my channel will be going away. Me and JPC will have one channel. And as you guys seen, well, if you haven't seen, it is renamed, recreated, redone. And we started a Facebook group as well to get everybody involved here. So not just in the comment section on YouTube during the live streams, but also make sure to check that out. And, of course, the name of it's going to be Outlaw Sports with Jesse and John. So the link for that will be in the description below whenever this video does end, or you can go look for it on Facebook. But we got so much to do in the meantime of getting everything ready. Me and JPC is steering this thing towards more of a live stream than it is videos and podcasts, guys. So the long-term plan here is 4 to possible 5 live streams per week to get everybody involved. That way nobody has to miss the live streams and everybody gets their taste of it. So either way, very excited talking about the top SEC head coaches and obviously us merging. And make sure, guys, to go follow that Facebook group as well. So obviously I know Fred Bagley's on here, Ride Guy, Thunder OU Sooner, the Loyals for sure 100%. But in case you guys didn't know, real quick before we get into today's topics, me and JPC actually started off together essentially. So I found him one random day on Twitter, and in his excerpt of his Twitter feed, he says, "I'm looking for a guy to do a podcast." And I'm like, hey, I think that's what I want to try to do. And we actually formed Crimson Showdown, which actually became pretty damn successful. And to that debacle happened. Then we split, did our own thing, stayed friends, and then now we're merging back. And this is it, guys. If this doesn't work out, you probably won't see either one of us ever again. So, but yeah, I don't know. Let's go over some of the comments, I guess.
If y'all got any suggestions for this new rebranding, just drop it in the comment section or hit us up in the comments after the show. Hit us up on Twitter at OCF Productions. And what is your Twitter handle?
At College FB Lewis.
Yep.
So make sure to check those out. Like I said, you can check them out in the scrolling ticker below. Everything will be in the description as well. But moving on, I know you love getting into the comments. And that's one thing we want to stress about this brand, right? That's essentially what this is a brand. This is a corporation for the people. All right. I know JPC's always talked about for Common Joe's, Common Sally in the know, right? So
right.
More though, than the media talking head. So that's what this is going to be about. So expect a lot of that. But Thunder OU Sooner OU needs. There it is, Fred Bagley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've heard that more times than not. So, all right, I'll let you get through the comments real quick before we get into our head coaches real quick.
It's still early on. People ain't filtered in yet, but we got the Thunder OU Center who's got perfect attendance. Ride Guy 1218, he's one of our many Duck fans that come in here and squawk about. Fred Bagley, he's a hardcore as well. He's got his badge. He's deputized, actually. If you want your badge and you want to get deputized, all you got to do is hit that join button. It's not but $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. It's just a half a bottle of water for Outlaw, as Jonathan Lewis pointed out to me a while back, so I had to modify that with Bidenomics out there.
Yeah.
And now we have Benjamin Sisko in the house as well. What's up, Outlaw and the Neckbeard? So getting some people in here. We're getting ready to go.
All right, and you don't ever have to worry about this, Right Guy. I don't think you ever have to worry about me, JPC, damn that, ever going woke. I don't think that's ever going to be a problem, bro.
I'd probably go broke before I went woke. They say when you go woke, you go broke. I'd go broke before I went woke.
I'd go homeless before I went woke.
Man,
I guess that would make me
I'd
woke.
put me on the Titanic and sink me out 500 miles from Iceland somewhere.
That's how it works. All right, guys. So starting off here, I think you can't do nothing but probably start at the number one spot. And look, guys, this is the top SEC coaches, not national. But yeah, the number one spot, I don't think we're going to disagree, but I'll let you start off with the number one spot.
Well, pretty much. I mean, everybody's got to agree whether they like him or not. Right now, there's no peer yet, proven peer yet. I think it's going to change real soon. But Kirby Smart is definitely got to be number one.
Yeah, there's no getting around that.
Dave, my buddy sent me a picture of him and this guy that used to be an MC for Family Feud, Richard Dawson.
Yeah.
And they look just alike. Kirby Smart looks like Richard Dawson's illegitimate bastard son.
So back-to-back national champions, almost three-peat, right? Unfortunately, has not won the SEC many times, primarily because of Alabama. But yes, I don't think there's any way around it. Kirby Smart has them in the top four, if not top three, in recruiting every single season. He hits the transfer portal where he wants. But here's my favorite thing about Kirby. I will say this. Kirby, no matter the amount of pressure he's put under, will always stick with what he knows works. Stetson Bennett every year was not supposed to be the guy, right? After the first year he was there, and oh yeah, he was a good fill-in game manager, quarterback, and blah blah blah. I don't care what he did in the NFL. I get it. He was an alcoholic and needed to go to rehab and all this other stuff. But I'm talking about in college, every year he was supposed to be replaced by someone, right? Whether it be Vandergriff, whoever, Carson Beck, the guy that went to West Virginia. I mean, there was a line of guys that was supposed to be over Stetson Bennett, and he never gave in. I have to give him credit. So
I ain't giving him credit for anything.
Shut up. Shut up.
And well, actually, I'm making number one by default.
Yeah, he has to be number one. He's back-to-back national champions. He's the only one on the list, right, that has a title, I believe, in all the SEC now. So active, you know what I mean? But yeah, so moving on here. Who do you have at number two? Because I think this is where it's going to get really, really interesting.
Well, I'm going to be called a homer, but I'm going to put Kalen DeBoer number two, just because of what he's accomplished in his entire coaching career. He hasn't coached in the SEC yet, I understand that, but he's been numerous places where it's hard to win. He went to Washington when they were 4-8 and took a 4-8 ball club and had them in the national championship game within 2 years. And even before that at Sioux Falls and I think in a IA level school maybe, or Division III, where they have no scholarships, where you have to be a master evaluator, and he was able to win national championships in the Bukus there. So as a whole picture, I would say that Kalen DeBoer is probably just as proven as the rest of the coaches.
Damn. So I do not have DeBoer that high. So I know I'm gonna catch some shit on this pick right here, who I have at number two. So I'm already ready to hear it. So my second best coach in the SEC, it's Steve Sarkisian in Texas. So why? Hear me out, OU fans. Hear me out. Hear me out, Alabama fans. Here's why I have him at number two. How hard is it to deal with Texas boosters, would you say, JPC? Answer that question.
On a scale of 10, probably 12.
He has to deal with the absolute worst boosters. On a scale of 10, when he took over that program, after Tom Herman and those guys had that program, it was a total damn disaster. It was on fire when Steve Sarkisian got it. Yes, there was talent on the roster somewhat, but what I'm getting at is it was a disaster in the making, right? The staff, everything around it, the boosters, it was all a complete disaster. He has improved that program every single year he's been there. They've gotten better. They've gotten more talent, and they've gotten a better staff. Let me go through my notes here. Obviously, last year, I mean, easy one. They won the Big 12. They went to the playoffs, right? So nobody else is on this list has won a national title. So the next best thing would be something like going, right, to the playoffs. He's expected to be an SEC contender this year and a national title contender. He strives in recruiting and the portal. In Most importantly, he holds on to guys, right? He doesn't let them leave, but he brings in a lot of talent in the portal. You're talking about Isaiah Bond. You're talking about, I forgot the tight end we lost 2 years ago to him, but he went to Texas. He showed out, right? So he's not just a good recruiter, not just good at building staffs. He's good in the portal, and he took over a complete program that was just on fire, essentially. And he's done nothing now but make them a national contender. I think you can't overlook that. Anything else I got on this list? Let me look.
Well, the reason why I put Kalen DeBoer over Steve Sarkisian is because he's 2-0 against him, and not just in regular season games. These were in two major ball games at the end of the season, postseason games, in the Alamo Bowl and then the national title game. He did beat Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, and I don't think you can argue that. Like, I wouldn't have a problem at all with people saying that Sark should not be that high. But I'm looking on what he's done as a body of whole at Texas and what he came into and where he's gotten them to now, right? So, and I think you can make this argument because there's so much new blood in the SEC anyways. This list is going to be rough no matter which way you look at it. There's going to be so many damn different opinions. So
you got Steve Sarkisian number 2, and I got Kalen DeBoer number 2.
Yep. So who do you have number 3?
Number 3 will probably upset a few people, but don't want to upset the gallery at all because I think number 3 is Brent Venables.
Oh, my
I think
God.
he has a huge upside. I think he took over a team in disarray that most coaches wouldn't have to put up with, coming in, half their roster being gutted by a guy who was working against them while he was still employed by them. And not only did he do that, he came in and had a top 10 class. He's out-recruited the guy that said you couldn't recruit to Oklahoma each and every year for the past 3 years. And now he took him to a 10-3 season in just his second season with a depleted roster. He was able to win 10 games last year. Yeah. And not only that, but he had to go out and get a quarterback from Central Florida because he really didn't have a good quarterback in place and had to go with that on the fly. And he had Ted Roof as a defensive coordinator for a while. So, that's yikes. I'm not trying to be mean to him, but Ted Roof, his better days have passed him as far as the defensive coordinator goes. And to me, just looking at potential and long-term picture, I think Brent Venables is probably going to be the better coach of the two. I'm not saying Steve Sarkisian is going to fall off the map and eventually lose his job like Tebow, but I do think that long-term that Brent Venables is going to be a better coach and a better recruiter than Steve Sarkisian.
See, and this is why I love having a joint channel, because what you have is you have two different ways of thinking. So you're getting both sides of the coin. This right now is exactly why we did this. By the way, we have not discussed our list whatsoever. I don't have Brent Venables. If you had to pick who I put number 3, it's the body of work, what they have to deal with, the resources. I'm putting Lane Kiffin at number 3. The fact that man is at the Grove, which is in the middle of nowhere, in my opinion, outside of Starkville, Mississippi. It's pretty much in the middle of nowhere with very little resources, right? He's not given a lot. And what he's done there is done nothing but just give them their first 10-win season in 2021, give them their first 11-win season in 2023, and now has made them a national contender, right? I get it. He hasn't won the big game yet. But the fact that he's at Ole Miss in doing this, think about it's the same thing. Think about when Houston Nutt and the plethora of coaches that went through Ole Miss. What's that guy's name? The guy that was an alumni there that took over. He took over. I forgot the dude's name. Complete joke of a coach. The roster was a complete joke. Judson, Dart, none of those guys were there. He had to scrape and basically piece together a team just to put on the field. And the fact that he's done that with this so far, I'm looking at what he was given and where he's at now. Lane Kiffin's done a whole hell of a lot with very little.
The thing that dropped Lane Kiffin down the list for me is the fact that he's apt to just do something completely, utterly stupid in the middle of the game. He'll go for it on 4th and 5 from his own 25. Yeah. And I just can't get past that right now. Until he starts showing me he can mature a little bit and stop paying attention to the analytics or whatever he's looking at that I just don't. Sometimes the analytics are a little misleading. And I think that he's been misled into going for it on 4th and 5 at his own 25. And I've seen him go for it on 4th and 20 or 4th and 10 from his own 50. So I'm like, man, it's hard for me to get past that right now.
Well, anytime there's a first, the fact that they took Ole Miss, like I said, the first 10-win season and the first 11-win season, and he's won good bowl games. Like Lane Kiffin is no joke of a coach. And here's another thing that's very overlooked. Outside of Kirby Smart, outside of Nick Saban when he was at Alabama, the only other coach to have staff turnover as much as them was Lane Kiffin. And he's consistently made them better, even with the staff turnover. And I think that's overlooked a hell of a lot. That says a lot about him and his ability to go out and find other coaches that can do just as good as him. He was the one that went out and put his buck on Levy right before Levy went to Oklahoma. And now is the head coach of Mississippi State. Like when you look at it, Lane Kiffin's got an eye for other coaches as well. I think it's kind of overlooked. But all right, moving on here. We got a very interesting list, by the way, because past number 1, ours have not come close to each other, I don't think.
I had, I had the next guy's probably pretty close. Number 4 is Steve Sarkisian for me.
All right.
I didn't have him, you had him, what, 2, 3?
2.
Yeah, I had him, well, I guess I didn't have him as close. But anyway, Steve Sarkisian, only because, some of the stuff that you mentioned, as well as the fact that he's overcome a lot. I mean, and people try to say that he, was an awful coach, but that wasn't the case, man. What they don't realize is he was actually a good coach. He went to Washington when they were really bad as well, just like Kalen DeBoer. Just like Kalen DeBoer did. He went to Washington about 10, 20 years ago and turned them around, and then USC hired him. Now, USC wouldn't hire this guy if he sucked. So they hired Sarkisian, running into some marital problems, some alcoholism, which, that happens to a lot of people in his life. And he didn't take it so well. But then he overcame, and I think he'll continue to do well, as much as we don't, sometimes want Texas to do well because of some of their fans and their alumni and the way they act and wanting to implement the horns down, which looks like the SEC is going to roll over for that shit, which pisses me off, by the way. But I think going forward that him and Brent Venables are going to have some epic battles.
So the way they worded it is that as long as the players do not throw the horns down to another player while they're on the field actively, that's a penalty. Off the field on the sideline, I guess. It's still rolling over, in my opinion.
And to me, it's going to be like a gray area. It's going to be whatever officiating crew you get that decides that's what they want to do. If they want to call it, they're going to call it. And if they don't, they won't.
Yeah, no, I got you. So, guys, and if you are on this from my channel, make sure you go over to the new channel, right, which is listed below, or just by looking at this. So, yeah, Outlaw Sports with Jesse and John, because my channel will be going away. Just know that. All right, so moving on here, my number 4, right? We're on 4.
That's right.
Already, I don't like giving this guy number 4. I don't, but I have to look past just the moral compass of it, right? And you know who I'm going to say? It's Brian Kelly with LSU. The dude has won a lot of football games. He's won a lot at Cincinnati. He won a lot at Notre Dame, and he's going to win a lot at LSU. I'm not saying he's going to win a national title, but what I'm saying, he wins a lot of games. When you look at him, he's 20-7 overall in the first 2 years there. Only 3 other coaches have won 20 games in the past 2 years in the SEC. That has to put him at the number 4 spot, at least in my opinion. He's went number 6 in recruiting, number 7 in recruiting, and now back to number 6 in recruiting in the past 3 years. He's gotten in the transfer portal and gotten what he's needed out of the transfer portal. I do agree, and I believe that he has underperformed for the amount of talent that is on that roster. I believe they shouldn't have went 9-3 last year. That was easily an 11-1 team. Just from my perspective, but the defense absolutely sucks, right? No semblance of a defense. I do expect it to change, bringing in a new defense coordinator. Everything else is supposed to look a little bit better. How much better? I don't know. But Brian Kelly, for how much he has won, he's been to a national title, right? He's done what he's needed to do to be at least in the top 5 spot. It's hard to argue statistics. It's hard to argue wins, right? If you're winning everywhere you go, it's hard to argue that.
It's hard for me to put him up there because the moral compass that you speak of.
I agree.
But also sometimes the moral compass does have a way of bleeding into your program. I mean, it happened with Ed Orgeron, it happened with Les Miles, it happened with Gene Chizik. So that can affect your team eventually. I mean, Urban Meyer's another good example. But getting some of these comments, Tim Gillespie has his badge. He says USC wouldn't have hired Sark if he sucked? Question mark. What about Riley? Well, Riley was actually a good coach when USC hired him. So yeah, Sark didn't suck, and neither did Riley at the time because he had that Oklahoma backing behind him that put him where he was, and then he basically turned his back on y'all. But he was considered a good coach when USC hired him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he sucked. Trust me, a major program, if you're coaching in a major program like this, you don't suck. You may not perform the way the fans want you to, or you know what I mean? Like, you don't hold that expectation. Like, yeah, he never won the big game, but did Oklahoma ever give him $100 million contract? You know what I mean? Like, that's why you have to be fair with this across the board. You have to hold that expectation to what you're being paid too.
Thunder I guess he's taking an exception to you ranking Kiffin so high. He says Kiffin has been a head coach and he hasn't won anything.
What is anything?
But he has actually put them in record-setting seasons where no other Ole Miss coach had won that many games in a season until Lane Kiffin. Thank you. So he's actually accomplished a lot by Ole Miss standards.
If you don't take over Louisiana Monroe and then win a national championship in 10 years. That's not how that works. There's stages to this. Like, if you've sucked for 15 straight years or whatever it may be, a team that's never been to an SEC championship game, right? They consistently just get dogged out by everybody in the SEC. You don't expect them just to win the SEC in 4 to 5 years or a national championship. But the fact that he has them as a national contender and they're preseason number 6, for God's sakes. When's the last time you saw Ole Miss preseason number 6? Never, because it's never happened. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's given them a lot of first, and that has to be recognized. I'm sorry. You can't just overlook that. You can't expect someone to come into Vanderbilt, replace Clark Lee, right? And then win 4 games, and then 5 games, and then 7 games, and then 9 games, and say, well, what have they accomplished? Are you serious? That's never happened there, right? So it's the same thing with Ole Miss. But yeah.
Any comments on there you want to address?
Now, let me look at I haven't had a chance to look at the comments yet.
But if y'all want your comment pushed to the top while we're talking and to grab our attention, there's a little money dollar sign at the bottom. You click on that, write your comment out, then click again. It'll highlight your comment once you make a small donation to the program. And it'll push it to the top, and me and Jonathan will see it, and we'll read it out above the others.
All right, so, and I'll just address some of these really quick. So, right, Texas is always going to have talent. Yeah, they will. They've always had talent. That's why I say, like, but that doesn't mean they get developed, right? That comes from the coaching, in my opinion. Let's see here. Scrolling down through here. Thunder, you saying the Lincoln Riley neckbeard left OU without a defense and stuff. Okay, first of all, Lincoln Riley didn't have a defense when he was at OU. He didn't leave you without a defense. He left you with it at the current state of where it was at, which was without a defense. That's just me being honest with you. What he left you with is by stealing half of your offense and then taking the only semblance of an offensive game plan you had with him to California the moment he took Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler left to South Carolina. So he basically gutted the program from the inside out. And I get it. He's a horrible person for doing that. But you didn't have a defense with him there. I thought Ole Miss had some resources. Not much. Most of the resources go into in-state recruiting. And I don't know if you know this or not, but when you look at Mississippi in-state recruiting, they don't have very many recruits in state as far as like top recruits.
Some of their alumni fan base is coming around and starting to donate.
They are.
To them, but they're still not up there with the Alabamas and the Texas and Oklahomas of the world.
And Fred Bagler says Kelly 6 for me. Yeah, and I wouldn't argue that. Like, you can't really – it's hard to debate coaches, right, because there's so much movement in the past couple of years within this. And you're going off of, like, JPC here. He's using a big weight for potential, where I don't give potential a lot of weight, right? So it's just two ways of thinking. SEC penalizing horns down. Horns down is giving them an inch. They always try to take them out. Yeah, now I'll give you that. I agree. Them giving them that.
They're already having the SEC Media Days in Dallas. I said they're doing that for Oklahoma and Texas to give them a nice little welcome into the SEC. But it's hard for me to believe if they put it in Dallas, they might not just keep it there and not bring it back to Birmingham. But if they're going to do something like that, they need to put it in between somewhere. They're trying to make it easier for travel. That's why I said New Orleans in my last podcast, somewhere like that. It's in between for everybody. So, I mean, I'm just saying, because Oklahoma's actually closer to Dallas than Austin is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just saying.
Wait, they really are closer?
Yeah. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Even heard. Now, I'm not just talking about the state line. I'm talking about the city of Norman is actually closer to Austin, is what I heard. I mean,
So
closer to
Austin,
Dallas. Norman's closer to Dallas than Austin, is what I heard.
so I'm 4.5 hours from Dallas and San Antonio, and Austin's an hour and a half from me. About an hour is the way I drive, which is 80 miles an hour. So I mean, we'll say an hour, right?
Austin,
so it's 3
Austin
hours.
is actually Austin's what actually south of you?
No, it's north.
North. Okay.
Yeah, so I go north to go to Austin. So Dallas to Austin's probably in somewhere around the 2.5 to 3 hour range.
So northeast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, yeah. Okay.
After we do this top 5, 6, or 7, you want to show them that little
Yeah, I'm going to.
fine grilling nugget that you found. It's probably going to stoke the fires a little bit, especially out there in California.
Yeah, I found something you guys should probably look at. So, always look for little nuggets, as JPC calls them. All right, so moving on here. So to recap here, we both had Kirby Smart at 1. I had Steve Sarkisian at 2. You had who'd you have at 2?
Kalen DeBoer.
Kalen DeBoer. I had Lane Kiffin at 3. You had
Brent Venables.
Then I had Brian Kelly at 4, and you had
Steve Sarkisian.
All right. So going at 5.
We're not going to match up on this one either.
I know we're not. So
I'm
who's your number 5?
His number 5 is somebody that you probably don't like, Eli Drinkowitz.
Oh, God.
He's done,
Sorry.
like you said with Lane Kiffin, he's done more or less in a situation that was pretty horrific when he come in there.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Missouri was downtrodden after their legend left. His name escapes me. The guy that was roommates with Nick Saban. What was his name? Gary something or other?
Not Patterson. I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name.
Well, anyway,
I'm sure the comments help us.
I think Eli has that program. It really surprised me last year how well Missouri seemed to be a little more well-disciplined. And I think that Eli Drinkowitz, as much as people don't like him, he does say some funny stuff sometimes. Sort of reminds me of Donald Trump. He's always trying to poke on somebody. So, of course, I'm going to like that because I like to poke people too. But I think Eli Drinkowitz has that program going in a better direction than most are willing to admit. So that's why I'm going to put him in the top 5.
All right, so number 5, I have Kalen DeBoer. And I struggled putting him in the top 5, by the way. Even as an Alabama fan, I have a hard time doing it. But
the whole body of work, though, man.
Do what?
The whole body of work. If you're doing by whole body of work, you got a better body of work than any of those guys you was talking about.
Not better than the Kirby Smart.
I'm talking about the 2 through 5.
No, he doesn't have a better, in my opinion, he doesn't have a better body of work than Steve Sarkisian.
He beat Steve twice.
Do what?
He beat Steve twice.
Either way, we're talking about whole body. We're talking about whole body of work, not one.
No, exactly.
Anyways, let me give my reasonings here real quick. So the reason why I have him number 5 and not lower, because I was tempted to go lower with him, is people want to say, well, he has the number 1 recruiting class now, and he does. Most sources say number 1. Use composite 24/7 like I do. It's number 2, still 1 or 2 points behind Ohio State. Yes. He has a legendary head coach sitting directly behind him being paid as an advisor called Nick Saban. I'm sure there's some help there, some semblance of help. But yes, I'll give him that. He has number 1 or 2 in the recruiting. He's assembled one of the in my opinion, best staffs that you could under his certain circumstance, right? Bringing in Kane Womack and those guys, that couldn't have been easy. He brought in former head coaches as coordinators. And I get it. They're not from the top programs that you would think of, but they're still head coaches. Not only that, but they can also recruit as well. He's proven he can do more with less. Sioux Falls was a big one. Right. So past Sioux Falls, past Fresno State. Sorry, we'll get to that in 1 second. Past Fresno State, you're going into Washington, right? And he made it all the way to the national title game with 3 and 4 stars, right? So most of them being 3 stars. So yes, he does more with less. He has a proven body of work. He honestly does, but he doesn't have a proven body of work in the SEC, and he doesn't have a proven body of work outside of one good year, right, in Washington.
What? Yeah, 2 good years.
No, I'm talking about a national. We're not going to say both those years he was contending for a national championship.
The first year that he had was the same year that Steve Sarkisian had because they played each other.
No, I understand that.
In both years.
I understand. But we're talking about body of work.
I know, exactly.
Anyways, get to your donation.
Got a $5 super chat from Appalachia, Africa Twin. I love that name, by the way. He's got a great channel, too, by the way, if y'all want to check his channel out. Matter of fact, Appalachia, if you want to tell people in the comment section a little bit about your channel, you're more than free to do that. He gives us a $5 chat. He wants to know how my solar panel's doing. I guess he's talking about the old bald head here. He's doing all right today, I guess.
Blinding.
Well, I probably need to shave a little bit. Got some shaving rash up there. I'm gonna have to rub some shit on top of my head. Looks like I done broke out in 15-year-old acne on my damn forehead. But
He's going back a little bit.
I hope you didn't see that big ass red bump on my head, Appalachia. It might have scared the shit out of you. But yeah.
All right, so that's my reasoning behind Kalen DeBoer.
So recapping my top 5, I had Kirby Smart number 1, Kalen DeBoer number 2, Brent Venables number 3, Steve Sarkisian number 4, and Eli Drinkwitz number 5. Who was your top 5 again?
My top 5 was Kirby Smart at 1, Steve Sarkisian at 2, Lane Kiffin at 3, Brian Kelly at 4, 5 Kalen DeBoer.
All right. So we're going any further with this? Or
yeah, well, you might as well keep going. Okay, number 6. Who would you put at number 6?
Number 6 is your boy, Lane Kiffin. I almost put him in the top 5, but I figured, that Eli Drinkwitz, to me, has more upside because he hasn't made a bunch of asinine 4th down and 20 calls in the game. I think he has more of a mature way of approaching the game other than grilling coaches during press conferences.
I was about to say, okay.
But during the game, he coaches it like he's supposed to. Meanwhile, him and Lane Kiffin be interesting to see, go head to head on the mic. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't you think? Missouri and Ole Miss in the SEC championship game.
Missouri's not going to SEC championship, but
I got Lane Kiffin number 6 because I think he'll eventually probably become a top 5 coach. Someone will probably end up moving down, probably Eli Drinkwitz, if he can get that 4th down shit out of his system. I'm hoping and thinking that he'll probably learn from what he done last year. He might still do some crazy stuff because that's what makes Lane, and that's why people like him. But I look for him to back off of it a little bit this year and get a little more down to earth about it.
Yeah. All right. There's some flaws behind your reasoning, but I got you. Putting Eli above him. I can't believe that. Anyways, number 6, I have one of the most overlooked coaches.
You put Sarkisian over the board. So
anyways. Number 6 is one of the most overlooked coaches in the SEC, and he's done nothing but win games. And I get it. He's at a program that's not expected to win national championships, and they're not going to. But he always wins games. He always goes to bowl games, and he always produces NFL talent. First round NFL talent. Right? Talking about Mark Stoops at Kentucky. I do not know. It's hard for me to leave him outside the top 5, only because of how long he's been at Kentucky and how much he's done there. Do you remember when he took over Kentucky and how bad they were? Dear God, it was like playing Vanderbilt before he got there.
Well, but
so
they ain't been showing no progress to me. That's
Well,
why I ain't more.
I don't expect them. Well, I got them at 6 because I don't expect them to be a national title contender. I don't ever expect that, right? So, because when you look at what he has to contend with, the boosters give all the money. If you look at the money, all the money goes to the basketball team.
Upside and programs and stuff like that. You don't think Brent Venables is better than Mark Stoops?
I'm looking at body of work. Mark Stoops said, "Dude, Brent Venables is a brand new head coach. You're wanting me to say because of the possible potential, I'm going to put somebody in the top 5 in the SEC. It's not going to happen. It doesn't.
I did it.
I get it. You did it because
I put it in top 3.
You put a lot of weight on potential.
I'm Nostradamus. You remember that?
But I'm sorry, I don't do that. I'm not going to give somebody the benefit of the doubt going into the toughest conference. And now they're about to play one of the toughest schedules, if not the toughest schedule they've ever played in the history of their program. So, yeah, I mean, look at the schedule. But either way.
Mark Stoops to me is a guy that's hit his ceiling, and I just can't put him up there because of that. I don't see him making any inroads to doing anything different at Kentucky than some of the other successful coaches done at Kentucky before him. That's just my opinion on him. But my number 7 is Brian Kelly. I would have made him higher, but like you said, with the moral compass thing, I know that doesn't directly affect the field all the time, but I think it's going to come into play eventually because it always does. It seems like these coaches that have that issue end up falling off to the wayside, like the Urban Meyers and the Gene Chiswicks and the Ed Orgerons of the world. And I think he'll be the same way. Right now, he's a top 7 coach. I can't put him down any lower than that without looking completely stupid because he's won enough games. He went to an SEC title game, so he deserves to be in the top 7.
In his first 2 years, and you have him at 7.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Dear God.
I see the downside. I see it coming, man.
Okay. My number 7 is Eli Drink, which as much as I cannot stand Missouri, hate Missouri, in my opinion. I don't hate them. I just don't like them. I really don't like Missouri. And I believe this is a mistake putting them there. That's just my opinion. And no, I will never shave my head up.
Nah, come on, man. You got to be a team
player. I promise
player.
you, that's not going to happen.
You got to be a team player, man.
But I have Eli. Anyways, I have Eli next because they have improved every year he's been at Missouri. They have won They won 11 games last year, correct?
That's right. They beat Ohio State.
Yeah, they beat Ohio State. So I'll give you that. That's why I have to put them there at number 7. So yeah, I'm going to regret it. They're going to fall off a cliff this year, and I already predicted it.
So you want to stop it at magnificent 7 and bring up that little tidbit?
No, we'll go to 8, and we'll stop at 8.
Elite 8. That means half the conference, right?
Yep. So give me your number 8.
Before we get to that, Appalachia Africa Twin showing out tonight. He's throwing out the dollars, man. He's like that guy at the strip bar, man.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan might get up and give you a lap dance in a minute.
I don't know about that. I don't know if you want that.
Appalachia Africa Twin with another great $5 donation says, "Don't sell Josh Heupel at Tennessee short. Rocky Top is coming."
I got to see it.
Speaking of which, that's my number 8.
Oh,
Josh
God.
Heupel is number 8. He makes the Elite 8, even though I dislike him and with utter disdain because Tennessee, most of you may not realize this. Y'all may think Auburn's my most hated team, but it's not. It's Tennessee. They set us up back in the day. Quid pro quo. They were doing the same shit we was doing with T. Martin. Their boosters were paying him on the table through Western Union. And then they set us up and tried to take us out. So, yeah, Tennessee's my most hated. Josh Heupel, he's done good these first couple of years. He's been the head coach there. Beat Alabama, which is something nobody had been able to do. And what was it? We won 15 straight.
Yep.
But then he sort of reverted back a little bit. If he hadn't done that, I might have actually even moved him up a little bit higher. But as it is, I think he'll probably continue to show a little progress at Tennessee. He's got a good quarterback this year. I think he does. And I think he's at least in the top half of the SEC. I'll give him number 8.
All right. What do teams usually do after they beat Alabama? They usually do nothing with it. Tennessee beat Alabama. They did nothing with it.
Now Michigan did something with it.
That's a little different. I'm talking about regular season.
They didn't have to play but one more game. So
I'm talking about right. So, anyways, number 8, Oklahoma fans, you can now unclench. I have Brent Venables at number 8, and it is mainly based off of his potential. I do like the way he's recruiting. I do like the staff. I wish you could have held Levy there a little bit longer. But I feel like Levy's a really good offensive coordinator. I don't think he's going to succeed at Mississippi State. I don't see it. But I think Brent Venables deserves the respect to be at number 8. He did not come into an easy program. He did not come into he didn't come into an easy situation. He came into a program that got gutted by Lincoln Riley. And then on top of that, in my opinion, probably didn't have the full support of everybody there when it came to defense, right? Because Lincoln Riley left no defense because there wasn't one there to begin with, like we pointed out earlier. And he's pretty much had to rebuild the program and rebuild the brand in a sense, because you don't want the nasty Lincoln Riley taste in your mouth when you visit that campus. So, yes, he has done a lot in a short amount of time. As far as recruiting goes, he did improve his wins, right? So he did have to go over, get Dylan Gabriel. I believe he got the future, right, with Jackson Arnold. I made a couple of videos on Jackson Arnold in the past. I think he is the next big one. I think O'Neal is another one coming in the 2026 class. It's going to be really big out of the state of California, out of Arbor City, out of Lincoln Riley's backyard. Brent Venables went and got a quarterback, a top-tier quarterback, out of Lincoln Riley's backyard, Arbor City, which is connected to Los Angeles. So it's right in the Bay, not northern. I'm talking about Southern California, obviously. But either way, I do think Brent Venables does need to be number 8.
That's right. You know, it'd been cool if we had a little chart up and able to put the teams up there as we go, so people that come in here late could see who we picked.
Yeah, we could possibly add that later.
We're going to have to learn how to do that. You're going to have to learn how to do it because I can't learn it.
Yeah, I'll do it. That's why I'm on board to do all the tech work.
That's right. Now, honorable mention for me, 9 and 10 would have been Mark Stoops and then Mike Elko. Only because by default, after I get past 9 and 10, I just don't know if there's anybody out there worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So
Josh Heupel, I would have put next. I would have put Josh Heupel probably at 9. Mike Elko, I'm not sold on him at all. I believe he's going to be a good coach. I'm just not sold on him going.
I just put him there because I couldn't see anybody else that was worth it. I mean, Hugh Freeze ain't proved nothing at Auburn yet, other than he can get beat by a Hail Mary. Yeah. And Shane Beamer would have been in the list last year because he's making progress, but he sort of shit the bed last year to me.
Shit the bed was a bad word for
it. So that dropped him out of the top 10. And Clark Lee, and then you got Sam Pittman, who everybody says is going to be fired. So,
Levy.
And Levy's
brand new.
Completely unknown. I can't touch Levy right now at all, man. I can't even put him past Sam Pittman. So
yeah. Yeah, I don't know what you're going to get out of him. But now for the moment, you guys, Big Honest Kelly said, what did I miss? Brian Kelly at number 2. No, I actually helped you out, Big Honest Kelly. I was as much shit you have given me. I was the one that actually went up and stood up for LSU for the most part.
Oh, I had Brian Kelly ranked. You know, actually, I had him in.
Where did you have Brian Kelly ranked?
I had him number 7.
Did you hear that, Big Honest Kelly? This man had Brian Kelly ranked as the 7th best coach in the SEC.
I got to look at all things, not just the body of work, but the potential long term in my mind. So, but as you look at our top 8, man, all 8 were this. We had all the same names in the top 8 except for one, Mark Stoops. I didn't put Mark Stoops in my top 8, and you did. But other than that, we actually sort of agreed in a way on the top 8 and who's going to be there.
There was about 2 spots on average in between our picks. And you could, like I said, you could make the argument for any of these outside of Kirby Smart at 1.
That's what we did.
So, I mean, yeah, and that's exactly what this was. As you put Brent Venables ahead. You heard this, Big Honest Kelly. He put Brent Venables ahead of Brian Kelly.
But
you should be arrested for that shit.
I'll be honest with you. Brian Kelly and Brent Venables got a hard road ahead of them.
I'll give you that.
And both of them will probably go 8-4, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Is what will probably happen. One of them might go 9-3, and the other one might go 8-4.
I don't think LSU's going 8-4. LSU's going minimum 10-2.
Oh, yeah, maybe 9-3. I'll give him 9-3.
Nussmeier is an underrated quarterback. I'm telling you, right? If they have, I'm assuming they're going to have an improved defense, right? Brand new coordinator, everything else coming in, really putting the system in work here. I don't know. Anyways, but yes, Big Conus Kelly, he disservice to you. So my nugget I wanted to show you guys.
Here it comes.
What I'm about to show you guys is the 10 best recruits, top 10 best recruits in the state of California.
Keep crumbling down.
And where they committed to. Class of 2025, top 10 recruits in the state of California, and where they decided to play college was for the most part not at USC. Would you remove that damn comment so they can see the list here? Anyways, one player in the top 10 of California recruits decided to commit to Lincoln Riley. One.
Where's he at?
And it's the linebacker, Matea.
I don't see him.
So he's like the fifth one down.
The one you can't pronounce.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no idea how to say his name. So Alabama got 4 of the top 10, right? Texas A&M coming in and getting 3 of the top 10, Oregon getting 2, and USC getting 1. Where is this wall that I keep hearing about? Lincoln Riley's building.
Keep tumbling down the wall. Keeps tumbling down.
Yeah, I thought you guys would like this to some extent. But in all seriousness, this has got to be worrisome if I'm a USC fan. In all seriousness. Like if I'm a USC fan and I'm looking at this and you're telling me not only did you not get these guys, but now you're letting 2026 players like Jaden O'Neal, who committed to Oklahoma, out of, 20 miles behind Los Angeles and Arbor City, commit to Oklahoma. That's worrisome. Right? Especially when you consider the program he left, talking about we can't recruit Oklahoma. Well, they're recruiting out of California, I'll tell you that much. Or they're leaving California and going to Oklahoma. So in other places as well, as you guys can see here. Yeah. I thought that'd be a nice little nugget for today's live stream.
It's crazy, man, to me looking at it, man. And it's not just Oregon coming over and doing it now. You got Alabama and Texas A&M coming in there.
Do you know that Alabama
– out recruit College Station? Come on, man.
And here's the thing, and look, Fred Bagley, you're right. It's like Texas. You can't sign them all. You're right. But if I'm USC, I want to recruit some of the top 10 in my state. Right?
Not 1 out of 10.
Not 1 out of 10. Especially when they're in your backyard.
1 out of 10 should be reserved for someone that's way off on the East Coast, like Alabama. We should be the only one getting 1 out of 10, and yet we're in there getting 5 out of 10 or something, 4 out of 10.
Well, here's a really bad stat for you guys. Let me bring this up real quick. I don't think many people realize this. When you look at Alabama's 2025 class here, bring it up and share it to StreamYard so you guys can see.
They can be like, well, Alabama's Alabama. They've been winning national championships. That's why they're coming in there. What about the state that's your neighboring state that's in your backyard, the Oregon Ducks? How come Oregon keeps going in there taking their shit, man?
That's not an excuse. So you guys see this, right? This is Alabama's 2025 class. There are more players that have committed from California than anywhere to Alabama. Alabama comes in at number 2 with 5. Georgia at 3, Mississippi 2, Texas 2, Florida 1, Kansas 1, New Jersey 1, Ohio 1. Think about that. Alabama's going and getting the best of the best out of their own backyards with Kalen DeBoer, a brand new head coach. That's scary to me.
That's not good.
That's very scary.
I mean, to me, it would be very scary if you let the first-year coach come in and get a top-5 class. But you're not only doing that, you're letting them go number 1, number 2, and then coming into your own state and taking it. It ain't like we're staying around the Southeast to get these recruits.
So
it's just like Oklahoma's surprising, too, in the fact that they went out there and recruited in California, too.
The fact that we got Keelan Russell out of Duncanville is worrisome if you're in the state of Texas, right? So that's in Dallas. basically, right? You're right down the road from Austin. You're right down the road from Texas. Justin Hill lives in Ohio State's backyard. Everybody hacked him pegged, crystal balled almost 100% the whole time to Ohio State. And the whole time when he came out and said it, he was leaning towards Alabama. But what sold him was Kalen DeBoer. That once again, and you consistently hear this, Dejoun Lee, top cornerback out of California. What sold him? It was the combination of Kalen DeBoer and Keelan Russell. Like, it's scary when you look at what this dude is doing.
It's not going to be the normal transition that everybody was hoping for Alabama going to a new coach. I don't think. I don't think we're going to struggle nearly as much as people were hoping for. The guy went to a national title game.
Yeah.
So you bring him in, and he's sort of like a change-up kind of guy that's very successful, has a little bit of a different style, but he's so successful that he's able to come in and do that. And it's sort of like us rebranding. Sometimes you have to rebrand and refresh, and Alabama's completely done that with Kalen DeBoer, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the team's not going to look like it used to. I'll just leave it at that. They're going to be a little bit heavier on the inside when you're talking about defensive tackles. You're going to see faster linebackers. You're going to see more length right in the defensive back positions. Dejoun Lee, the dude is 6'4", for God's sakes. Our safeties now are like 6'2". With Kalen DeBoer. Like, you're seeing a lot of links. USC equals Nebraska. Everybody wants Nebraska to be back, but Matt Rule, I don't know, man. I'm not sold on that guy.
I was up for Matt Rule, and I was really supporting him. He got Raiola, but that was because he has family connections to Nebraska, and that's the only reason he went to Nebraska, is because I think his uncle coaches there or something. So I'd like to see Nebraska come back, but they got a lot of things working against them, man. A lot of things. They lost the recruiting. Right. They lost their main recruiting base when they moved to Big Ten. Their recruiting base was Texas and the Midwest, and people they don't want to send their kids to play Nebraska and have to go to a game in Piscataway, New York, or New Jersey.
Yeah, I know.
New Jersey, wherever the hell Rutgers is at.
When it's negative 15 degrees outside. So normally I would agree with you, Fred Baglis, and having to follow legend could be harder than ground up, but I'm just saying I would normally agree with you if Nick Saban left. If Nick Saban retired, I would agree with you. But he's on the staff. He's literally on the staff. He's not some dude that's an unpaid analyst, right? That doesn't exist anymore. Those are gone. Yeah. You can now have all the assistants coaching.
Well, now you bring it up. Nick Saban's probably set another record to be in the highest paid analyst of all time. I mean, how many analysts paid $500,000 a year?
Well, an analyst is not allowed to be paid more than $30,000 was the previous rule, right? $30,000 was the max.
Exactly.
He's not even an analyst. He's an advisor directly to DeBoer, directly to him.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of legends, when they leave, they're sort of aggravated and a little disgruntled and feel like they got pushed out, like Lloyd Carr and Philip Fulmer. And even if they are around, they're very meddlesome.
Yeah.
I just don't think that Nick Saban's the meddlesome type. He just don't seem like that to me.
Since I get it, Bob is around all the time as well. Yeah, but I don't know how many. I mean, Nick Saban's already he shows up with DeBoer to these recruits' houses. I don't know how often Bob Stoops does that. Like I said, he can do this stuff now. Like, he's helping him.
That's right. He's actually helping him recruit.
Like,
I'm not trying to be
allowed to,
but. I like Bob Stoops, but he's not exactly the legend that Nick Saban is either. So, not to try to piss anybody off, but he only won one national championship.
I mean, I think that's a fair comp. You're not going to say, you know what I mean? Like, of course.
Now, there's been instances where coaches, helped out and stayed around a little bit in other programs, I'm sure. I think maybe Bobby Devaney stayed around and helped Tom Osborne back in the day. But people don't have the patience that they used to have either. So
Yep, I agree. All right. Yeah, that's all. That's a little nugget. We did the top 8 coaches. That's all I got, man.
That's about all I got. Anybody else in there in the comment section? Y'all got a question y'all want to ask us before we depart the new branding in place?
100%. Fred Bagley, wealth of knowledge is, Tolino is never bad. I agree 100%. I appreciate everybody getting on here. Obviously, like I said, make sure to go check out. And I want you guys active in that Facebook group, man, because we're going to be super active in it. We're going to be posting a lot of stuff in there, updates and all that. So make sure to go check out the Facebook page, which is Outlaw Sports with Jesse and John. Like I said, when this ends, I'll make sure to put it in the description. That way you guys can click it or just look at the ticker going across the screen now. But yeah, that's all I got. Oh, we got one more last donation coming in.
Advisors being able to be hands-on now is a huge advantage.
Yes.
West Virginia University brought Jeff Castile back from WVU's heyday on the D sideline the ball. It's always good to bring someone back like that that's been associated with the program, like Appalachia Africa Twins trying to allude to, I think, there. And Nick Saban's freshly associated with the program. So it's going to be huge if you can bring in those guys from the heyday, like, alumni that played for the team, that you can come in and pay them a little something, and keep your legendary coaches around and keep ESPN from plucking them from you completely. Although he's probably going to be on ESPN quite a bit too. But what do you think about that comment?
Yeah, no, conspiracy theory time. Was this rule put in place because Nick Saban was retiring and he wanted to stick around Tuscaloosa?
Yes.
Did Nick Saban change another rule? Because I don't know if you guys know this. Nick Saban was the one that had the recruiting rule put in place where you can only recruit so many hours during recruiting season.
Well, he first got
do what?
He didn't want that rule. He was put in place because of him.
Yeah, exactly. So he wanted to recruit longer hours, right? So, but they had to stop him, and then they put it in place because they said it was an unfair advantage that Nick Saban was willing to work holidays when other coaches were not. So they literally put that in place because of him. And now you get this guy.
Old Saint Nick, man.
He just won't go away.
He's working all through Christmas and all through the night, taking every recruit in freaking sight. Ho, 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 bitches.
That's how we got Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram was a prime example of that.
That's right.
So when he flew up there to Michigan, went to his house during the holidays, and they said, okay, we got to stop this. This is not right. So, but all right, that's all I got, brother.
All right, man. Close it down for us. I'll let you close out.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody getting on here and leaving comments, donations, all that good stuff. Make sure to check out, obviously, like I said, Outlaw Sports with Jesse and John, not just the Facebook page, but now the YouTube channel. We are keeping, for now, our Twitter account, so make sure to check out at OCF Productions, which is JPC's, and at College FB Lewis, which is mine. All that information will be in the description below when this turns into a video or a podcast, whatever the hell you want to call it. Other than that, as always, have a good day and roll tide.
KMCA to all the other teams.